There has been plenty happening in the media over summer, especially when it comes to the ABC, but plenty elsewhere as well, and no one's over it better than Sophie Elsworth, the media writer with The Australian, who joins me now live from Melbourne. Good to talk to you again, Sophie. Looking forward to picking over these issues all year with you once more. We'll come to the ABC in a moment, but the story you've had out of Canberra today is just a ripper, I think. It's a classic for those of us who are in the outside world, and it talks about the Canberra bubble, really, because Anthony Albanese has just appointed a new person to his media office, and it happens to be one of the lovies, the political reporter for The Guardian. She's known as Murpharoo on Twitter. Malcolm Turnbull helped convince The Guardian to employ her as their political correspondent. She's a shocking lefty. Is she going to be able to give Albo any good advice?
Well, Chris, great to be here in 2024. Look, I don't think there are a lot of people really surprised with this appointment of Catherine Murphy today, Chris. She's really been a fan of Albanese and the Labor government for a very long time. I would have been shocked and fallen off my chair if she had gone to work for Peter Dutton. But today it was revealed that she's joining Anthony Albanese. And just to remind viewers, she's been very critical of Peter Dutton, so he took a swipe at her online today. And also the SMH's political correspondent, David Crowe, basically accusing them of running Labor lines.
Yeah, we've got it up on...
Catherine's commentary...
You've got to get it up online here, because this is quite unusual for a political leader. Peter Dutton has said, "I'm genuinely shocked to see Murpharoo take up a spot to now be officially running lines for Labor." The sarcasm deep there. The real outrage is David Crowe missed out. What more must be done to prove his credentials to be formally employed by the Labor Party? David Crowe writes for the 9 media newspapers. That's unusual for Dutton to come out swinging as directly as that against, well, David Crowe, of course, can still write about him every day.
Well, that's right. It was quite a surprise that Peter Dutton really went so hard there, Chris. But clearly he's no fan of David Crowe, nor Catherine Murphy. I mean, Catherine Murphy has described him, Peter Dutton, as an exploding fire hydrant, extremely polarising. When the voice failed, she said, "We see you, Peter Dutton. Basically, we know what you've done." She's been very, very critical of him. So he pretty much, as soon as the news broke today, he took that swipe online and it went viral.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, though, David Crowe, who would normally wear criticism from a politician, I suppose, as a badge of honour, he won't be thanking Chris Bowen, the Climate and Energy Minister, because Chris Bowen jumped onto Twitter. And what did he do? He sought to defend David Crowe. And he says, "I thought this must be a parody," referring to the Dutton tweet, not the account of the alternative Prime Minister. For the record, David Crowe is a journalist of the utmost professionalism who keeps all sides to account. He does not deserve this level of childish abuse from you. Now, that's just going to confirm the accusation that Labor is on side with Labor, isn't it?
Well, Chris, I don't think it helped that Chris Bowen chimed in. He's arguably Labor's most polarising minister, and he's probably the last person in the Labor cabinet that you'd want coming out throwing your support
Yes.
behind you. I did ask David Crowe if he had any response to Peter Dutton's remarks, and I didn't hear back, Chris.
No. It's quite interesting. Getting personal there. But I think, look, Murpharoo or Catherine Murphy, she'll have good relations with the press gallery. But in terms of giving Albo advice about how to win over Middle Australia, she ain't going to be able to help him at all. She only helps him on Twitter. Now, let's get back to the ABC. The big news last week, of course, announcing the new chair designate, Kim Williams. I wrote about him on the weekend. Here's a little bit of what he had to say last week.
It is imperative that the ABC reliably adheres to principles of integrity, independence, and a continuous aspiration, to the extent possible in human affairs, for freedom from bias.
There we go. That's Kim Williams there, formerly the CEO of Foxtel, formerly CEO of News Limited, impeccable career in the arts as well as in the media. He's got all the experience, all the qualifications, Sophie, and he said all the right things, but we all know he ain't going to be able to do anything, is he?
Well, Chris, I think you're spot on there. How is Kim Williams going to be able to turn the ship around with the ABC, the taxpayer-funded broadcaster, which receives over $1 billion of our money each year? It's rampant with bias. And I think, Chris, it's so widespread at the ABC. I could write stories about this every hour of the day, but I think it's so widespread that it's too hard to fix. And we can see with Ita Buttrose's tenure, she was unable to fix the problem.
Well, and I think, and the key point, and you know this all too well, the biggest change he could make at the ABC to help improve it is to appoint a strong managing director. And that decision was taken away from him because Ita Buttrose and the current board signed up David Anderson for another 5 years on $1 million a year before, of course, he's got a chance.
And also, Chris, they did that in secret. That was leaked to the SMH, that story, which is quite appalling that such a serious appointment was done behind closed doors. Chris, I only reported last week, Australia Day, we had the Indigenous Affairs reporter, Bridget Brennan, on air saying always was, always will be. This is in a news report. Chris, how do they fix this? It's rampant through the ABC.
Always was their ABC, always will be. Thanks for joining us, Sophie.